Anyone suffering from a cold or anything from our 80-degree weather and then snow and then sunny and then, the weather's been crazy here. Even more crazy, I was in Mississippi and it would do this, but this is insane. This is the way that the weather can change back and forth. So hopefully you're okay from all the weather change. Hopefully you enjoyed the weekend and enjoy this afternoon. We just want to welcome everyone, especially our members. If you're visiting with us, we're glad that you're here. We have a welcome center over here just for you. We've got a bag of goodies and would like to get your information. If you have any questions, you can see one of our elders as you walk in. Our elders are on the wall there, so catch one of them if you have any questions. I'm the youth minister here, and our normal preacher here, our teaching minister, is out this weekend. We have a member here, George Shelton, who's going to be bringing our lesson today, so we're excited about that. We just want to take this time to sing praises to our God, to commune together and remember the sacrifice and take the Lord's Supper together. And we're excited to hear from His Word and fellowship together. That we are having a movie night here and next Sunday, and we'll tell you more about that coming up. We're excited to have our team for Honduras getting together and our youth missions. I just wanted to personally thank you so much for the money that was given over our special contribution. I don't think I've been able to do that yet. And I believe with what we raised, it definitely puts us on the way to having the money we need to go. We've actually got another team that's hooking up with us from Nashville. And so right now, we have 16 going, and then we have a team of 7 that's going to team up with us and go. Of course, they're taking care of all their stuff, but they've been, the past few years, and been an inspiration to us and getting involved. And so this is a big movement, and we look forward to all this good stuff we'll be able to do in Honduras. So you're such an encouragement to the youth group, and hopefully we can be an encouragement to one another. So let's stand together and let's start worship this morning by singing, "Let Us Worship the Father."
Good morning.
Good morning.
Last year, sometime, I don't really remember when, Jeffrey asked me if I'd like to preach some Sunday, and I thought, sure. I don't really mind it, and I've been known to have an opinion a few times. When I was a small child, and by small I mean somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 4, I don't remember exactly when it was, but we attended Dawsonville Church of Christ. And I believe it was a gospel meeting, Ben Flatt, I know a lot of y'all, at least the older people know Ben Flatt and who he is. Ben Flatt came and preached a sermon, and between the last alarmingly long amount of years that's been since I was 2 or 4, I've never forgotten that sermon. And it really made a huge impact on my life, because when I speak at camp, a lot of times, because I was a child, I try to put something visual in what I do. So, just to let y'all know, this is not my idea, this is Ben's Flatt's, and I'm going to do my best to share it with y'all. Ben's a big man. That's probably one of the reasons I remember him so well. So I thought he was a giant when I was 3 years old. He's about 6'8", and he had these huge collection of shoes. And I called him last week and told him I remembered it from being really small, and asked him if I could have the outline, and he was gracious enough to send it to me. So I'm going to compare Christians to shoes. It's interesting that Trey talked about remembering, because I will never forget that sermon because of the stuff that he used to do it. And I'm going to start with the largest non-shoe ever made. This is a flip-flop. And I know some of y'all love them, wear them all the time. I cannot imagine wearing a flip-flop. Having that thing between my toes would drive me out of my mind. But comparing the flip-flop to a Christian, flip-flops don't give you any protection, nor, in my opinion, are they comfortable. I know Some of y'all will disagree with that. They tear up really easily. I could just like pull that right out of there and probably stick it back. But there are certain people in the world who enjoy, they refer to themselves not necessarily as Christians. They will tell you they're spiritual. And they like to talk about God and they like to talk about spiritual things, but they don't act on them. Hebrews 5:12 says, in fact, by the time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you the elementary truths of God, word all over again. You need milk, not food. People who tend to call themselves spiritual or don't attend church, don't make much effort, also tend to flip-flop. They're blown about by the wind, and they change their mind on things. The next shoe is a lady. This is not my shoe. Any of you ever sat and watched a lady with her foot just holding it by the barrier? It just barely holding on. She'll move her foot up and down, and it's just barely hanging there. Pretty. And don't get me wrong, ladies, I'm not knocking your shoes. Don't get mad. There's not a lot of substance to this shoe. A lot of times as Christians, we make a good show, we look good, but we're just barely hanging up, making an appearance. There's another kind of shoe. Colin, will you stand up, please? Colin's going to help me with this. I hope you can hear it. It might be real quiet.
Is that good, George?
That's good. Thank you. Everybody hear them shoes squeak? Squeakers. There are squeakers who are Christians. You know the kind of people I'm talking about. I've been the kind of person I'm talking about on some occasions. You hear them coming, and they're usually complaining. Every step that's taken, everything that's done, they find fault with. Acts 6:1 talks about they were murmuring about the food distribution. And if there were ever murmurers, there were ever squeakers. The entire Old Testament that's devoted to the children of Israel, those were the biggest bunch of squeakers that ever lived. I mean, just having come out of the miracle of the Red Sea parting and the Egyptian army being destroyed, they were complaining. They were murmuring. You brought us out here with nothing to eat. We don't have any water. We should have stayed in Egypt. Every church has them. And like I said, there have been times in my life when I sat on the sidelines and complained about what somebody else did, but I didn't do anything myself. That's a murmur. Jude 16 calls these men are grumblers and fault finders. They follow their own selfish desires. Don't be squeakers. The other shoe is a sneaker. And I'm using this. I know these get called everything. Athletic shoes, running shoes. I don't run. If you ever see me running, you can assume something terrible is happening. And I probably out of ammo. But for this lesson, sneakers are quiet. Sneakers, you could put these shoes up on somebody and like walk up on them, sneak up on them, they wouldn't even hear you. There are Christians who try to sneak through life. They try to sneak through life doing things that they know they shouldn't do, living in a way that they shouldn't live, immorally. And they think, because nobody has found them out, that they haven't been caught. Hebrews 4:12 says, nothing in all creation is hidden from God. Everything is uncovered and laid bare. Sneakers are really good at rationalizing what they do, especially as long as they're getting away with it. And I wish I could tell you that I've never been a sneaker, but I have. I suspect most of us have at some point in our lives, doing something that we knew we shouldn't do, sneaking behind people's backs and not letting it be seen. I suspect all of us have done that at some point. Yeah, I don't have a loafer. That's my next shoe. Frankly, I've never owned a loafer in my life, so I'm sure some of y'all are wearing loafers, and I'm not knocking you. But loafers, even the word loafer, conjures up an image of somebody who's lazy, that's not doing much. I had a friend several years ago who, how did I say this, quite possibly the laziest human being I ever met. He was in his 40s. He would not keep a job. He would work for a little while. I don't know that I ever known him to work very long anywhere. He lost his marriage ended because he couldn't keep a job, and his wife just couldn't take it anymore. He lived in an apartment that his mother paid for, or his father paid for, I'm not sure which. And his mom, he had his mom's debit card, so he could buy food and whatever else. He was lazy. He made a lot of excuses for it. The fact was, he was just lazy. He didn't take care of his kids. There's a lot of that going on in the world. Men having children, running out and not taking care of them. But we as Christians can become lazy too. Now let's be honest, I don't really know. There's very few things in the world I dislike more than a lazy person. I will abide a lot of things, but lazy bothers me. Because lazy people don't accomplish anything, and a lot of times lazy people prevent other people from accomplishing stuff. So let's not be loafers as Christians. Let's not get lazy. Hebrews 6, 10 says, there are a few things, I'm sorry, that's the wrong place. Hebrews 6, verse 10 through 12. God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. We want each of you to show his diligence to the very end in order to make your hope sure. We do not want you to become lazy, but to imitate those through faith, patience, and inherited what has been promised. We are literally commanded by God not to be lazy. My next shoe is a house shoe. It's fuzzy inside. It's very comfortable. It's very warm. And when I was talking about this, thinking about this, and looking at this shoe, Beatrice bought these for me for Christmas. They are very comfortable and they're very warm. I don't wear them very much. There are warm and fuzzy Christians. There are warm and fuzzy congregations. There are warm and fuzzy religions and churches. Not long ago, in our own backyard, sort of, I think it was in Williamson County, there was a large church. I don't remember the name of it. I don't remember the name of the preacher, and it doesn't really matter. But it made all the papers because they were having just a huge division in their congregation because the pastor, as they called him, had decided that not only would they welcome homosexual members, that they would allow homosexual members to be married at their building. And he went on to say that he had had that revealed to him in a divine end. Like I said, it was a big story for a long time. I followed it. Clearly, he had gone over from teaching the Bible to being a cult. There are lots of congregations and lots of Christians who just want the warm and fuzzy. They don't want to think about any of what we would consider the difficult part of Christianity. They just want that warm and fuzzy feeling. They want milk. They don't want to get into the hard stuff. And when confronted by the hard stuff, they will typically either retreat, leave, go somewhere else. They don't like having their toes stepped on, which if you step on my toes and those, it would hurt. Don't be a warm and fuzzy Christian. This is not my shoe either. This is Aiden's Sunday shoes. Aiden's back at We Worship. He wore his tennis shoes this morning, which he's convinced will make him jump taller or higher. But I want all you kids that are listening to understand that I'm not knocking your Sunday shoes. When your mom and dad this afternoon tell you to take off your Sunday shoes, put on some other shoes before you play, you should do that. What I am going to say about Sunday shoes is a lot of times we have, and I'm wearing my Sunday shoes, because I don't dress like this very often, and usually if I do, I'm either going to be up here or I'm going to be doing a wedding maybe. But I don't wear them much. They're special occasion shoes. We need to guard ourselves against being special occasion Christians. Mine are not terribly comfortable, by the way. I don't know about y'all, but I don't wear them enough to make them comfortable. I've always thought it was really telling that, like at a wedding, the guys always wear tuxedo shoes that are very patent leather, very pretty, but they're horrible. They're very uncomfortable. You know, the bride wears a very expensive dress. The bridesmaids wear, you know, very expensive dresses, and the guys are all standing there in rented shoes, rented suits. So, Hebrews 10:25. Let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another. Some people pull out their Sunday shoes just for a special occasion. They want just enough religion to, if they die, they can say they were a member of that congregation. Or if they're running for political office, they can say, this is where I go to church. Let's not be special occasion Christians. I also don't have a shoe for tight shoes, but I seriously doubt there's anybody in here who has at some point wore a pair of shoes that was too tight. I have at a few weddings. And tight shoes can remind us not to be tight with our time, with our talents, with our money, our finances. God wants us to be generous, not tight. God doesn't want us to not use the talents. In this congregation, I look out and I see people who can do multitudes of things. Some people are very tight with their money, but it's much worse if you're tight with your time and your talents. The whole parable of talents is about not wasting what God gave you, not being tight with it. Luke 12:48 says, everyone who's been given much will be expected much of them. Corinthians 4:2 says, now it is required that those who have been given a great trust must prove faithful. Don't be tight with your time. Don't ignore your kids. Don't ignore your spouse. Don't ignore your congregation. And if you think, and I'll just throw this in, I really thought about this. If you think you'd like to get involved, but there's nothing here for you to do, I would remind you that I'm speaking to you this morning, which is proof that that's not the case. There's something here for you to do if you want to get involved and not be tight. There's something here for you to do if you want to use your talents. I also didn't bring an overshoe. That, I mean, like the boots. Boots. When I was a kid, I had galoshes. They were rubber, and they had these weird things. You put on, I had this yellow rain suit and this weird hood. I looked ridiculous in. Galoshes, overshoes. Yeah, actually, overshoes are coming back. I bet a lot of you girls have like rubber boots that come up about mid-thigh, and you bring them out when it's raining. Bring it out when you need them. If it's snowing, you see a lot of, some of them are like got flowers all over them. They don't look like the old rubber boots that you see guys pouring concrete with. One problem with overshoes is a lot of times we treat God like overshoes. We only reach for Him when something's wrong. Somebody died. Somebody's sick. Somebody's in trouble financially, and then all of a sudden we reach for God. We keep them out in the garage or back in the back of the closet the rest of the time. But when something's wrong, then we reach for somebody. Several years ago, I spoke at a funeral for a guy that I really didn't know. Not much anyway. I'd met him, he was a nice guy. That when he died, I did the service for him because he didn't know anybody. He didn't know a ministry, he'd never been to church in his life. But when he died, somebody wanted somebody there to read scripture and talk about God. Let's guard ourselves against reaching for God only when things go bad. And it's really easy to do. I got one more shoe. This is my shoe. This is a work boot. John 9:4 says, as long as it's day, we must do the work of him who sent us. Night is coming when no man can work. The work boot is the opposite of the loafer. What do you put your work boots on for? To go to work. What do you expect to wear work boots for? When you won't get down and dirty. When you expect to be in the mud, possibly the blood and the emotional turmoil. Work boots, these are comfortable. They are designed to be comfortable. They are designed, work boots are tough. And that's because they need to be for the amount of stress and damage we do to them. Work boot Christians, and there are a lot of them here. I love you so much. I haven't always been a work boot in my life. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. But work boot Christians see a need and do it. And I've heard, and I don't know if this still rings true or not, but I always heard that in almost any organization, whether it be a congregation or a fraternal organization, a club, whatever, you got about 20% of the people who do the work, and about 80% of the people who pass the time. Being a work boot can require long periods of time. It requires getting dirty and not minding. It requires getting involved and not minding. I would also say, and this is a little bit of thing, if you just look at the shoes themselves, if you were going to, I don't know, dig a ditch, would you ever consider doing it with this? No. If you were going to mow the yard, would you do it in that? You certainly wouldn't go to work with your church shoes. Wearing house shoes to dig a ditch is just absurd. I would encourage you today to be a Christian work boot. I would also tell you that at different times in my life, I remember one time standing at the old Madison Street Church of Christ in the building. I came in the back door. I went up in the balcony. My life was in turmoil. And I was doing stuff that I knew I should not be doing. I was also just barely hanging on. I'd make an appearance on Sunday morning and jet out the door as soon as church was over. And I walked up to the balcony, and it was a Wednesday night, and there was no one there in the balcony, and I knew there would be anybody in the balcony. And that's why I went up there. And I stood and I watched the little service at the end of class, and I went back and forth in my mind about whether or not to go forward. And instead of doing that, I turned around and went back out the door. And it took me a long time before I got back to where I needed to be. Back before I got back to work. No. A long time ago, at Lyle Christian Camp, we used to, at night, sneak out of bed, take a red bottle of nail polish, and wait till other campers went to sleep and paint their nails red. And if you're good enough at it, maybe their toenails. We did that for years. Thought it was the funniest thing. And then, I think it was Travis and Dave Morgan. Is that you, Travis? They took this. No, they didn't pay. Well, they probably did, but they didn't pay. Travis used to come from Albuquerque to camp, and him and Dave decided the last day of camp they took the paint, the red nail polish, and they painted their big toe. And they left it. They didn't clean it off, and they made this agreement with each other that they would let it just grow off. It would stay on as long as it did. But every time they took their socks and shoes off at night, or when they put it on in the morning, they would stop and say a prayer for each other. They would remind them. It's really interesting that Trey said what he said about memorials and remind them to say a prayer. Later, when we were all older, and the different set of group that did all that weird stuff, they started getting married. We started doing it the night before their wedding. We would paint one of our big toes red, and we would let it grow off, not clean it. And every time we saw it, we would not just pray for him or her, we would pray for their marriage. I haven't always been a work boot. I don't always wear my work boots. But I hope this morning that we can, like, I told you the story of the fingernail polish just to remind myself that mundane things can be very helpful. Something as mundane as looking at your toe when you put your socks on. It reminds you to pray for somebody, or to pray for somebody's marriage. I hope this morning that in the coming weeks that we can look at our shoes in a different way. And that we can be reminded, even though we may not be wearing them, to get involved, to find what your talent is, find what your place is, and get to work. That being said, I don't know if there's anybody here who's never been a Christian, has never become a Christian. But if you're here today and you've never put on the full armor of God, the shield, the shoes, the sword, if you want to get involved, or if you're here today and you feel like you're just barely hanging on, and you want to do something about that, and you want our help and the elders' help doing that, then I would invite you to come forward at this time. Thank y'all.